Welcome back, guys. It's craft time. In today's video, we're gonna go from this to this. Let's go ahead and get started. In today's video, we're going to be taking one of these large tin cans and turning it into a wall pocket or a door pocket that you can hang out on your door, your wall, just a piece of home decor that's gonna brighten up your seasons. I have done this in a past video. It was more of a like springy all year round type of decoration, and in this one we're going to be working on some fall and even winter crushed tin cans. So I'm going to talk you guys through how I did it. The first thing you're going to want to do is to remove the bottom of the can. You can just do this with your standard can opener. Now, I know that people say, and not just people, this is probably the correct way, that you're supposed to cut along the lip right here and cut this whole thing off, but don't do that. Do it the good old-fashioned way that most of us were taught. Cut the inside of that out because you don't want to leave a very sharp edge on that. So just cut out the middle of this, leaving that lip of the can, and then you're gonna want to smash it. Now you can do this one of two ways. You can use your hand/feet using protective gear, some good gloves, preferably with like a rubber coating to where you're not going to accidentally cut yourself. And if you're going to step on it, make sure you have shoes that fully enclose your foot. That way you are being safe. And you could also do, if you have a vise, which I do happen to have one, you can start to pre-smash it a little with your hands and then put it in the vise and cinch it down. Basically, you're going to want to get it as crushed as possible on just one side. We're basically wanting to close up that bottom edge. Now for me, it doesn't matter if it's completely closed. I know some people, I wouldn't say glue, I don't know what they use, but they'll make sure it's completely sealed. I don't care about that. I just want to get it as cinched down as possible. So if I don't have any footage of that in this video, I do have that other video from before. I will link that in the description below. So if you need further detail and more of a, if you're more of a visual person, then you can click on that video and I go through step by step showing you exactly how to crush the can. From there, you're going to want to paint them, clean them up, and then paint them in whatever colors that you want. Now I'm using chalk paint on mine. I love chalk paint because I know it will stick to anything. It's gonna stick to this shiny metal really well. So now that I have all of mine crushed, I'm going to paint one in a green for Frankenstein, two in an orange, one a pumpkin orange, and the other like a lighter orange, and then the fourth one white because I'm going to be making a snowman. For this, I typically do one coat on the front and back, and then a second coat on the front of what will be the front of my piece. I just like to make sure it's nice and covered and it looks really good and cohesive, and I find works best for me is if I use a soft bristle brush. I get the layer of coat, oh my word, I get the layer of paint onto the can, and then once I have it completely covered, I like to take my brush from one side all the way to the other side in one motion. That way I can get rid of any of the brush strokes that you may see, and it just makes it look like it flows really well and that the paint had always been there. After they dry, which I do use my heat gun for that, it just helps speed up the drying process, and I am not very patient, so I just have a cheap one from Amazon. I do have it linked in my affiliate links if you're just looking for a decently priced one that will get the job done. It does have two settings, one low and a second one for high, and I use this all the time in my projects pretty much every time to help me dry things quickly. That way I can move forward. So once these are all painted, the next step I want to do is distress them. Now this is optional. I just like this look. I think it gives it a little bit more character. So I'm going to be wet distressing each of these cans. To do this, I'm just going to be using a baby wipe, or you can use like a wet paper towel or wet rag. And I'm just going to be rubbing all of those raised surfaces and bumps from the can, and then using a dry paper towel to wipe over them. And what that's going to do is any of that paint that's kind of hanging around, it's going to wipe that away to let that shiny metal come through. And then I'm going to do that for each of the cans, and I'm just going to do that to my likings, maybe a little heavier on some and not as heavy on others. Once those are done, it's time to add on my embellishments. Now, like I said, the first one I'm going to do Frankenstein. So what I want to do for him is just draw on a cute face, and I'm going to be just painting that on using some more chalk paint. I just use a pencil to kind of draw on his face, pencil it on to give me an idea of what it's going to look like, where I want it to be. And then I'm going to paint it on just using some of that chalk paint that I have on hand. And then for the finer details, I did pull out a Sharpie. Sharpie sticks really well to chalk paint, so I just did that for the smaller details and then to outline things just to crisp them up a bit. And then I moved on to the next one. The next one, I'm going to be doing just a pumpkin face. I wanted to do something kind of cutesy, and I'm just going to draw that on again with a pencil. And then I'm going to be painting that on with the chalk paint. For the next one, I'm going to be painting on a snowman face. Again, I drew on the face kind of to get it how I wanted, and then I was ready to go ahead and paint that on with the chalk paint. And then for all of those, I'm going to distress the faces back down. So just like I did before, but I have to be very careful. So what's going to happen is I want to make sure this paint's completely set. I need to use caution, because what's going to happen is these darker colors, or the colors that aren't the same as my base, they are going to start smearing. To help try to prevent the paint from smearing too much, what I'm doing is I'm never using the same part of the baby wipe or wet paper towel again, so that I'm not wiping color back on. And I'm also just keeping that dry paper towel with me and wiping it clean every single time. And if it does smear a little, I'm using another clean part of that wet rag, wiping that smear, trying to get it away, and then wiping it again. And that worked really well for me to be able to control the colors to where they're not smearing everywhere or causing any color bleed or any issues. Once all of those were ready, I wanted to work on the fourth one. And for this one, originally I was gonna paint Hello Pumpkin on there, but then I remembered I have these little like tin wording from Dollar Tree and have one that says welcome. So I'm just gonna adhere that with some floral wire. And what I'm gonna do with this is I'm gonna get out my drill, use a really small bit, whatever one fits the wire that I want to put through. I kind of lined it up. I marked with a pencil where the holes need to be, and then I drilled it. Now, the cans drill decently easy. Just know that your bit can slide around. You want to just be careful. Make sure your hand's not underneath on the other side, and that you're just being very mindful of where your hands are. When the drill bit goes through, where is it going to? You do have to put a little bit of pressure on it to get it to go without sliding around. So just be very cautious. However, it goes pretty easily and it doesn't cause too much issue. So I just drilled through. I will say, if you can try to make your holes in where it kind of goes down, so that your bit will kind of sit in the middle of those two raised edges, and it'll help keep it in place. That way it goes through a lot smoother. So I did that, and then I took floral wire and I wired down that wording. For all of these, I took them outside. I used some of my Rust-Oleum 2X spray paint in clear matte, and I gave them 2 coats of it on each side just to make sure this is sealed up, that chalk paint's not going to go anywhere, and then people can use them indoor or outdoor without me having to worry about weather causing any issues for them. Now the fun part is to add all of the decorative pieces, the florals and whatever, to the top. Now, if you're like me, I do sell my items. Some of them I can make and not put florals in and let people do that themselves because they have a certain style. But for the most part, I like to pre-arrange mine because that's the fun part. So I'm just going to be cutting down some floral foam and putting it down in there. You want to make sure it's in there snug. If you want to hot glue it down to the sides, you can. I don't do that. I just push it down to where it kind of holds really snug, and I know it's not just going to fall out, but then it's also easily removable if they want to change out the florals in the future. So I put that in, and then it's time to add some hangers. Now I'm going to be using the drill again and just some different types of wire. For 2 of them, I'm just using some thicker wire that I have on hand. And then for the other 2, I'm going to use some of the wire jute that I picked up from Dollar Tree. For the 2 just plain wire ones, I'm just using another small bit that is a slightly bigger than the wire so it can fit through really good. I'm just hooking that through, twisting it around and folding it down to make sure that wire is nice and secure, and then doing that on the other side as well. For the Frankenstein one, I did take a dowel rod and kind of twist it around to kind of coil the wire just to add a little bit more character, but you don't have to do that. It was just something fun that I decided I wanted to do. And then for the other 2, what I had to do was use a bigger bit. Now what I found is I like to do mine kind of on the back top, not on the sides, but on the back top. That way it's kind of easier to drill, but I'm not doing it, I'm doing it in that like inch of flat. So I need to be careful that the bit's not just kind of wiggling around because it doesn't have the ridges to sit into. So what I found when I need to do a bigger hole is if I take the smaller bit first, put a hole, then my larger bit, it will kind of grip into that hole, and it makes it so much easier to do the hole with the large bit. So that's kind of, I don't know, just a suggestion, a tip for you. That's what I find makes it easiest, so it's not sliding around. A smaller bit is much easier to control, so I feel like it's a safer way, and it's an easier way for you to not get frustrated or have the bit slipping around and causing issues. So I did the same thing. I looped it through, I twisted it, folded that wire down, that way it couldn't come untwisted, and we have handles for everything. From there, we're just gonna add different florals. Now, I have florals that I have picked up throughout the years that I've used here and here in bits and pieces, but I also have some brand new ones that mostly I've been picking up from Walmart or Dollar Tree. Walmart has absolutely gorgeous fall arrangements this year. I don't know if you guys have seen them, but I am all about them. If you've been watching my videos, you've seen me use them in several other pieces, but I don't care because they're gorgeous and I love the color combination, and we're gonna be using those again today. So we're going to start with Frankenstein, and I have these cute little owls. They're like glittery, sparkly owls that somebody had given me a couple of years back that I never really found the right project for. So I thought it'd be really cute to have them kind of sprouting out of his head. So I took some of the fall arrangements or fall flowers and mismatched flowers that I have for the past, and I arranged those in there, and I added those cute little owls. I love how he turned out. I don't know which one's my favorite, but I try to make his expression as if he's looking up at those owls, and I think he's a hoot. I'm not going to apologize for that. Okay, for the next one, we're going to be doing the pumpkin, and I just wanted to, again, use some fall flowers that I have on hand, and so I'm going to kind of use the color combinations that I feel go best, but I want to do a lot of the oranges and yellows. I just feel like it matches the pumpkin vibe really well. But it did seem a little bit plain once I got done. So I took some it's like a lighter color jute or like rope. It's not really a yarn. I don't know. It's not like a full jute, but it's not a yarn. It's kind of like an in-between texture. But I'm just going to wrap that around the top several times. And then I'm going to make a little bow to add to it. I do have it winking with some eyelashes. So in my head, she's a girl. And I'm going to take that same stuff, wrap it around my fingers however many times I want, pinch it in the middle, and then tie the middle off, and that's going to give me a really cute little bow. And I'm just going to tie that to the wire. I didn't hot glue this on or anything. I don't think it's going to slide or go anywhere. If it shifts down, there are ridges to stop it, so I think it's going to be all right. I'm going to call it for this one too. I think she turned out really cute. I'm very proud of how it turned out because I was a little unsure about her at first. About halfway through making these, I was feeling really gung-ho. I was like, yeah, I really have a good vision for these, and I just like hit a huge block and all of a sudden felt very incompetent in my own artistic ability, and I was just done. So I had to take a break and come back, and I'm very happy with how she ended up turning out because I was not in love with her at first. For the next one, we're going to be doing the welcome. And it's going to be a fall arrangement. I'm taking one of those bouquets that I told you I picked up from Walmart, disassembling it and reassembling it back into this piece. And I'm going to be also using some of the little stem, I don't know what they're called, like the spriggy pieces that I picked up from Dollar Tree to pair with this. I feel like the colors go really well together, and arranging this until it meets my eye, and I'm really happy with how this one turned out too. I would love to know in the comments below which one you guys think is your favorite. I can't choose. I love them all for different reasons. For the last one, we're doing Mr. Snowman. I have a big craft fair coming up this weekend, and though most of my items will be fall, Thanksgiving, Halloween related, I did want to throw in a couple of winter things as people will be kind of on the lookout for that. So Mr. Snowman's coming with us, and I picked up these frocked little stems from Walmart, and I don't know, I just really like them. I think they're really cute, so I'm going to use those and kind of put them in here, and then I am going to disassemble one of them and then pull the pine cone off the other, add a stem on. So what I'm doing is disassembling so I can rearrange how I want, but also if something's not tall enough and I want it to be taller in the arrangement, I'm just taking a floral stick that I've cut off from another flower, using some floral wire and kind of wrapping them together to make a longer stick. That way I can put it in and it'll sit where I want it to. So if you're having the same issue, I happen to cut flowers down all the time, tend to not use them, go to use them in a next project and they need a stem, I just put them together with floral wire and an old stem from something else, and it works flawlessly. So I'm doing that for this one, along with some poinsettias that I have basically picked up a haul from someone off of Facebook Marketplace a few years back. I don't know, it was several wreaths and a few florals and this and that, and then when I got there, she ended up giving me like 2.5 bags worth of crafting stuff, and these poinsettias were in there, so I wanted to add them in here for a pop of color and just give Mr. Snowman some life in the dead of winter. So that is it. That is all it takes for these projects, you guys. The hardest part is just kind of the prep work, getting them crushed, making sure there's no sharp points, preparing everything, but there's such an easy way to flip something as simple as a tin can. Now, I know most people don't order food in bulk like this. You can go to your local schools, see if they'll donate, maybe food banks or anything, because they'll have a bunch of these, and I'm sure they wouldn't mind to hand some over to you and get them out of your hand. You're gonna have to clean them yourself, but they make beautiful decor, and who doesn't like free 99? So mine came from, they were donated for an event for a centerpiece, and then they donated them to me to do whatever I want with them. So that's where these projects are coming from. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Give me a thumbs up if you enjoyed this content and think I did a good job on flipping these items. I would love to know in the comments below which one is your favorite. If you give it a try, consider joining my Facebook group where you can post your projects so that we can interact with others excuse me, and inspire each other to be creative. I'm going to take you guys in for a closer look, and I'll see you next time.